Sydney is a cosmopolitan international city which draws in tourists from all around the world. It's not known for what lies beneath our very feet in many parks, sometimes only a few kilometres from the city centre. Watch as Snakey and his 21-year-old snake wrangling daughter navigate through Sydney's backyards on their way to catching and releasing some of the most dangerous reptiles in the world.
Rightio, how you going everybody? Having a good day? How many people here have brought in some reptiles already as pets? A few here. What have we got? Turtles? Bearded dragon? Awesome. Eddie, what do you get? Children's? And a jungle into? Oh gee, you've had a good day. It's Christmas for you today, mate. You've done very well. Okay, well, my name's Andrew. This is Sandy. And we're going to show you a few cool reptiles here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. If anyone here that's new to reptiles, you'll learn a bit about what's what. Anyone here that does have experience with reptiles, you'll get to see how some of them will behave and things like that. But I'm sure there's usually not too many people that do keep venomous snakes around the area, is there? But it's not a common thing for a lot of people to keep venomous snakes. Usually it's people like me. I keep venomous snakes mainly for the reason that I show them, and I do like them obviously. But as far as pets go, for a lot of people, I wouldn't recommend a lot of people just keep venomous snakes just because they think it's fun to do. You can die doing it. It can sometimes be a very dangerous occupation. But I want to show you the safe way to these animals and the do's and don'ts around them as well. And hopefully with a lot of the information I give you, you'll go away and you'll have a much better understanding and a bit of appreciation for some of the animals you do come across. So I'll start off with the first reptile I bring out. The first one I'll bring out is probably something that most people don't like to be in a reptile at the time. When they see these little guys, they go, they're way too cute to be a reptile. And that's a little turtle. This little guy here is an Expanser, or Broadshell turtle. It's only a young one. So only being a young turtle, these guys actually do grow quite large. They're the largest of all the freshwater turtle species we have in Australia. And this one here, when it gets full grown, it grows up to probably up 1 metre long. It'll be a shell size around that, and it's going to have a neck about that. They are very, very large indeed. As you see, it moves around there, very good at walking. A bit like people call them tortoises for that reason. But we don't have any native tortoises in Australia whatsoever. We've only got the freshwater turtles, we've got the big marine turtles that live out in the ocean. And they've got the big flippers. You can tell these guys are turtles because of that webbed feet. With that webbed feet, you know they're designed for swimming. But when you've got a tortoise with a club foot that walks around on land only, they're not really good in the water whatsoever. So when they go into a nice river or something like that, they're going to make sure they can just walk out the bank again. Because generally these guys, they can swim good, but the old tortoise, hopeless swimmer. So the other thing is too, and also with the tortoises, they've got a higher dome shell on the back. And with that higher dome shell, if they trip over, land on the back of their shell, they're probably going to be stuck on the back of that shell. They're going to be waving their little arms and legs out in the sun, they can't get back over again. These guys are designed way better. In fact, they've got that low shell there. The neck goes a lot higher than what that shell is. So if they land on their back, what they do is they can actually use that neck, twist it around, flip themselves straight back over on their feet again and land on their way. They're not caught out in that midday sun. They're not going to cook to death or die. So very, very well designed. But another thing is, even though that neck is that strong to be able to get themselves and flip themselves straight back over like it's one of their limbs, one thing they can't actually do with that neck is they can't swallow food when they're out of water. So what they have to do is have to make sure that if they find any food out of water, they have to make sure they've got nice little swallowable pieces that they take it back to the river or the creek or the dam, wherever they are, and they make sure they wash it down their throat that way, because they don't have the strength in that neck to actually swallow it down properly. Righty ho, I'll just put this little fella back. And we'll get out a few lizards. I'm sure a lot of kids here like lizards, don't they? Yeah. Anyone here got a favourite lizard? What's a favourite lizard? I usually have a lot of kids, some with blue tongues as their favourite. Anyone got a blue tongue as their favourite? Yeah? Blue tongues, they're cute, aren't they? Have you got a pet one? Has anyone got a blue tongue in their backyard? Yeah, awesome. Every year, same one? Awesome, they're great to have around the backyard. Okay, so we're going to go and get a couple of lizards in. We might even have a blue tongue amongst them. Here we go, look at all these guys. It's a nice variety of lizards here. These are the sort of lizards, the common sort of lizards that you can find around the New South Wales area and around the Sydney area too. This one here, the old blue tongue, the most commonly known lizard in people's backyards, in the large lizard variety. And they're great to have around because what they're going to do is they're going to spend a lot of time getting rid of the pests in your backyard. They'll look after your gardens and make your fruit, veggie patches go really, really well. They're going to eat snails. That's the reason they like to hang around backyards, because snails is their favourite food. So they're going to eat snails, they're going to eat slugs, they're going to eat grubs, they're going to eat caterpillars. They'll even eat spiders. And another thing is they'll also manage to eat little baby rats and mice out the nest if they get a chance too, which is really good. Once they're a rat and a mouse, they can't really catch it. Look at those little stumpy legs, they're not built for speed. The rats can outrun them a lot easier. So if you do have a blue tongue hanging in your yard, give them a little bit of strawberry, a little bit of banana, a little bit of meat, something like that to make sure it hangs around. And while he's hanging around, he's working to your advantage. The little guy we have here is a bit of a cousin of the blue tongue. It's known as a shingleback lizard. Shingleback lizards get the name shingleback because the big shingle scales that is back there is like the old roofing they had on the houses many years ago. And then they've also got a few different other common names. Those other common names is pine cone lizard, looks like a pine cone, feels like a pine cone. Or they call it the sleepy lizard, the double-headed lizard, the bobtail lizard, the stumpy tail lizard. All those names suit it really, really well. And as you can see that tail there, it tries to mimic its head. And it's got, so that means it's got a head that mimics its butt too. I mean, I have a couple of mates like that, but it works way better for this lizard. These little guys here, they're not something you're going to find around Sydney natively, but you will find them once you hit around probably Goulburn, around Bathurst, Dubbo, those country areas once you go west. They're going to be found out in the western areas because mainly in those western areas they've got lower humidity. These guys aren't real good with humidity at all on the coast. If they get a lot of humidity, what happens is that they end up getting bad lung and respiratory infections very quickly, and you'll find once they get that respiratory infection, they will die within 6 months. It's actually quite sad for them. Some of them do turn up around the Sydney area, and that's mainly because people go on holidays and pick them up off roads, and they try to keep them as pets illegally, or what happens is they bring them home and they let them go in the bush, not realising that they're not local to the area on the coast. And these poor animals suffer very, very quickly. So the other little fella we have here at the moment too is a bearded dragon. Beardies are pretty cute, aren't they? They're a cute bearded dragon. They always recommend it. If you want to see bearded dragons in the wild a lot of the time, you go out and drive along the country roads. When you go along those country roads there, you look on the side of the roads. On the side of the roads, you'll see things like all the old fence posts and even the old tree stumps where the trees have been cut down over time and cleared lands. If you look at all the old fence posts on the side of the road, there's a good chance you might see one of these guys sitting up on top of one of them. While he's sitting up on top of that fence post there, he's going to be absorbed. You know what he wants to do? He wants to jump back in his box. He's waiting for that lid to go down because, you know, most wild animals, they want to get away and escape from cages and boxes. He just wants to keep getting back in. He's a little bit different. He's been in captivity his whole life, so he knows no different. And he thinks it's really, really cool to jump back in his box and go back to sleep. He's a bit lazy because he's getting old. He's 37 years old now, that lizard. So he's getting on. But he still goes very, very well. So, as I say about this bearded dragon, you see him on that fence post out there. While he's sitting up, he's looking for predators, he's looking for where mates are, looking where food might be. And then you might pull up in the car. And as you pull up pretty quickly in the car, he's probably going to get a little bit nervous that you're there. So while he gets a little bit nervous that you're there, he's going to mainly rely on a little bit of camouflage and hope you don't notice him. Once he realises that you have noticed him, he's probably going to put on a bit of a threat display to scare you off. He's going to puff his body up with air, he's going to open his mouth up, he's going to show you his sharp teeth, and then he's going to hiss at you and try to scare you off. There he goes. He's going to hope that you get real scared, you run away, and you go leave him alone, and you go hide somewhere and not give him any more hassle. What he's going to do, while he's up there, he's just going to think this is fantastic while you disappear. He's going to find that if you hang around much longer, he'll end up doing the same. So he'll jump off that fence post, and he'll go run real fast along the ground, find his way to a nice little rock crevice or a hollow log, or even in the grass roots on the ground. He's going to wedge himself in forwards really, really tight. Once he wedges himself in forwards really tight, the way these scales are designed down his back, you can run your hand down that way, but it's very hard to go back up the other way. So you find once they go into that little crevice there, those spines are going to make grip really well. It's going to wedge it tight, so you won't be able to pull it backwards out for anything. There we go, he's just going to sit up there for a moment. I'll get Sandy to bring this lizard around for you. And what you do, just try to run your hand down his back, try to run back the other way, and these spines on the side, they're not really sharp at all. He's gone back in his box already, has he? I haven't even started talking about him yet. I better go get him back out. Come on, buddy. What are you doing? There's a bit of brass on you there. Okay, so the guy here, his name's Les. Les is an eastern water dragon. Eastern water dragons, as the name suggests, they're found around water areas. They're found around rivers, creeks, waterways, and not only just fresh water most of the time, but they can also be found around saltwater, on the foreshores of the harbour and places like that. They'll get around areas where you see them hanging around. They'll also eat things on the rocks. They'll eat crabs, they'll eat mussels. They've got very strong jaws to break those mussel shells as well. And they will swim in the water and love it quite a lot. But when you see these guys most of the time along the riverbanks, sitting on the trees or on the rocks nearby, what happens is that they probably get a bit scared of you. Once they get a little bit nervous, they want to get away, what they actually do is they're going to dive off that tree, dive off that rock, and find their way into that river. Once they get into that river there, it's usually a nice big, ungraceful dive. When they hit that water, it's a nice big backbuster or a belly flop, and then when they hit the, you know it's there. Even if you didn't know that lizard was behind you on the tree, and he dives into that water, you hear the splash, you know he's in there. And he'll wiggle that tail from side to side, get his way right down to the bottom of the river. Once he gets down there, he can lay on the bottom and hold his breath for over an hour. So that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Imagine when you're a kid doing laps under the pool. Wouldn't that be cool to be able to hold your breath for over an hour? You win every time. But they're very, very well designed for that, and they do live a long time. Like I mentioned, this guy here, he's already 37 years old. So he's getting on in age. He's been doing these shows longer than I have. Come on, buddy. But the good thing is, being 37 years old, he's got a good nature too. He's been raised with lots of love and cuddles his whole life, so he's got that great personality that he doesn't run away, and he's not skittish. He's quite happy to be handled by people. And one thing I like to explain about these lizards is that I'm sure no one here is actually scared of these lizards, is there? No one in the room? Ah, that's alright. Because you're going to find sometimes I come across people that are scared of these animals. Me having a reptile and relocation and snake catching business, I come across people that are actually petrified of lizards as well, as just snakes. And I have people ringing up almost in tears. And these, a lot of the times, this is grown men. And I've got grown men going, I'll pay you anything to come and get this blue tongue away from my house. I don't get it. I feel sorry for half the women of the future these days. It's, when I see some men like that out there, I'm really worried. It's, but I'll tell you what, I don't mind taking their money. I'll call it a pussy tax, really. So, but that's alright, because I don't mind if they're going to take those ones away, and if they can learn to live with them, it's all good. But I can understand if people want a snake relocated, that's not a problem, because that is a dangerous thing. And if you've got dogs and pets and stuff like that around, it can be quite dangerous indeed for those too. So, the lizards that you're seeing, they're all pretty harmless sort of lizards. They're not going to hurt you for no reason, but I will give you the heads up. If you go do something silly with any of these lizards, you go try to pick one up that doesn't want to be picked up. You go and do things silly or pick up the blue tongue in your back garden that you never touched before and pick it up by the tail, they're probably going to turn around and bite you. You go and grab one of those dragons that doesn't want to be picked up, it's probably going to bite you. And when it does bite you, it's going to hurt, I'm not going to lie. Anyone here turn their finger in a door before? Know what that's like? It's painful, isn't it? Does it hurt? Did you open the door really quickly and get your finger out? Yep. Just imagine if that door doesn't get opened back up. That's what it's like with a blue tongue hanging on your finger. It's going to be, your finger's going to be jammed in there and it's going to be stuck. No relief for quite some time. One of those dragons, what they do, they bite you and you're going to break the skin a little bit more. They've got sharper teeth, so they're going to probably make you bleed. And it can be quite a painful bite. They do have strong jaws, but the thing is, treat it as you would on any sort of normal wound or injury, and you're going to be okay. On the other hand, I do have another lizard here that's a little bit more dangerous and a lot less forgiving. If you do something silly with one of these guys, you can end up really hurt. That's one of these. Isn't that beautiful? That there is a goanna. all lace monitor. This one here is known as a Bell's form. It's a broad-banded form, and they are beautiful lizards indeed. This one here is full grown, and the reason it's only that size, being full grown, is because it's a female. The males, they get up to over 2 metres long. They get quite large. I get a lot of people say to me, they go, oh geez, the one I saw out camping was way bigger. And I said, yeah, I'm sure it would have been. It was probably a big boy. Girls don't grow much bigger than that. This one here is 24 years old, so she's certainly not getting any bigger than that. And she's pretty much reached, maxed out. But the good thing about her is that I bred her myself, and she's been raised in captivity with lots of handling, lots of love and cuddles. Then I could go over to her, and she's not trying to rip me to pieces. I wouldn't do this with a wild goanna. If I done this with a wild goanna, I'd be losing a lot of blood. You'd be loving it. It'd be highly entertaining for you guys, but it'll wreck the rest of my day. I'll be there getting stitches. Because they've got very sharp claws, and not only is those claws you've got to worry about, but you've also got to worry about what's inside those jaws. Inside that mouth there, they have the same teeth as sharks. They're recurved, serrated, sharp, really sharp teeth, recurved and a serrated edge. And they're not designed for chewing, they're designed just for gripping and ripping. So they're just going to grip their prey, hang on, and if they've got the thin enough skin around it, they'll actually lock their teeth into the bone. There was an instance I know of a chook farmer that was sick of the goannas coming in stealing eggs, and the occasional chook every now and then if they were big enough and hungry. But what happened is he walked out there and he saw a goanna in one of his little chook boxes. He goes, I'll get rid of that, easy. I know what I'll do, I'll just grab it by the tail. 2.5 hours later, that lizard let him go. He swung around, grabbed him on the bicep with the arm, and he had that lizard on him for 2.5 hours. It locked on with those strong jaws. It was a nightmare. It caused him a whole lot of grief. He's ended up having surgery on that arm, and he still can't use that arm properly to this day. So when you see goannas, don't underestimate it. One of the funny things you will find is that you see these guys around picnic areas and camping grounds. And we're on the picnic areas and camping grounds, a lot of times they seem very tame, don't they? They come up, you give them a couple of eggs, you give them a bit of bacon. Quite scary when I see toddlers running around with eggs in their hands and bacon in their hands. We goannas want to eat it. That really puts shivers down my spine. Because I can see that these animals aren't going to let that kid get between them and food if they're really hungry. And that would be a very dangerous situation to be in. But I have seen a bunch of guys hanging around camping sites. And when you've got a bunch of guys hanging around the camping sites, they've all been on the cans all day, and the goannas start to wander around. And you might get the occasional goanna that comes up next to the campsite and sits there. And then you might get the guys go, geez, they're so tame. How good are they? Tame is not the word I like to use. The word I prefer to use is conditioned and confident. They're very confident animals. They know they're willing to do something silly, they can sort themselves out. So when you hear one of your mates say, I've never held or touched a goanna before in my life, I might hold my beer, well, you go pick one up. That's when you get your phone out. You're going to get the best footage of someone getting ripped to pieces. They are very, very tolerable if you're hanging around them, but if you touch them, you've crossed the line. They don't like to be picked up. So this one here, she's not bad at all. Are ya? Hey? They can use that tail as a whip as well when they want. But they're actually really, really nice animals. Rightio. Whack that back in there in a moment. Yep. A lot of times we hear a lot of people that they might have a fear of snakes. And usually when people have a fear of snakes, the main thing they fear, especially, is venomous snakes, isn't it? I hear people say silly things to me at times where they go, oh, it's a python, they're not venomous, they don't bite. They bite alright. Just because they're not venomous doesn't mean they bite. But I've seen some venomous snakes probably bite less than some pythons. But the trouble is, it's a much more dangerous bite if you do get bitten by a venomous snake, that's obvious. But I also find a lot of times when people might be fearing that they're getting a venomous bite, they go, oh, don't want to go out in the bush, don't want to go anywhere near snakes are. Because they go anywhere where snakes are, they might get bitten by one. And a lot of people actually think it might happen to them. But the fun thing that I find is that these people that actually think it might happen to them are never actually prepared for it if it does. Like all the people I asked around here now, How many people carry one of these with them? I mean, no, it's about the number I usually get, no? sometimes I might get one or two, and they're probably a scout leader or something. But generally what I find is that with these bandages, if somebody actually thinks they might get bitten by a snake, this is all you need to save your life. Because I have people say to me, they go, what happens if I get bitten? How long have I got? And I was thinking, well what, you don't just think you're going to plan on dying, do you? Like, wouldn't you rather survive? And they're going, oh yeah, 100%. I said, well why don't you just have a bandage on you? It will save your life. It's not going to reverse the effects or anything. But what it will do, it will buy you a whole lot of time until you get to hospital and get proper treatment that's needed. So what you're going to find is with a bandage like this, see how they got those printed little rectangles all printed on it? With that little printing and those rectangles, when I stretch that out, they turn into squares. When they turn into a square, that is a perfect pressure for a snake bite treatment. And that makes it foolproof, a bandage like that. One of these in your glove box, backpack, anywhere you go camping, bushwalking, one of these will save your life. Because the thing is, the bonus we have with our Australian snakes is that our Australian venomous snakes have pretty short fangs. So when you get bitten by a venomous snake, you're going to find that it's not like a big hypodermic needle going in your body. What it is, it's usually pretty much just basically just a scratch on the skin surface. So while it's just mainly just a scratch on the skin surface, what I get everyone to do now, grab your hand and make a fist like that. Make a good fist, and then with your other hand, hit your thumb, and you push on top of that fist. And keep pushing really, really hard on there until I say lift it up. And then when I say lift it up, you look at the top of the hand where the thumb was. Ready? And then tell me what happens to the top of the fist. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and look. What happened to the skin? Did it change colour? It went white, didn't it? You know why it went white? You're pushing the blood away from that skin, aren't you? And that's called the lymphatic system. And that lymphatic system is what the venom will travel through once it meets the blood in the lymphatic system. So once you've got the blood not in that lymphatic system, you will immobilise that venom there. Once that venom is immobilised, it's going nowhere. If it doesn't get to meet the blood in your body, it doesn't meet your heart, doesn't meet your kidneys, doesn't meet the organs, and doesn't kill you. So what you're going to do, you're going to have venom. It's quite safe to have it sitting there. It's only bad once it hits here. So this is all you need. Don't bother washing the bite. You can work out what they're going to need for any venom. Once you get to hospital, they can check the venom and see what it is that needs to the pressure for the treatment. But this is what you need, the pressure on there. Stretch that through the whole limb. You're going to go all the way up, keeping it with that pressure, like all those squares. And you do the whole limb and keep it completely immobile and keep still. Don't go walking out the bush. Don't try running for help. Try to make sure help comes to you. If you've got a mobile phone, you can call emergency services on that. You can be in the middle of a national park. You might be a good opportunity to get a helicopter ride. Just go for it. Don't bother trying to get out of there. Okay. Just put that back over there. And now that everybody knows how to treat snake bite, I'm going to get some venomous snakes out of the box. And if something goes wrong, I'm sure I'm in safe hands with everyone here today. This first one here at the moment is a very lovely animal. It's probably my favourite out of all the venomous snakes. It's out of my favourite of all the venomous snakes. This one here is probably one of the most beautiful. And it's probably one of the most commonly known venomous snakes in the Sydney region too. Here we go. Isn't it beautiful, guys? It's known as a red-bellied black snake. Red-bellied black snakes are one of the happy-go-lucky snakes in the snake world, I reckon. They cruise around, minding their own business. They're going in the swampy areas, they're through the creeks, they're through the bush. But they're not interested in hurting people or anything like that. What they really want to do is just be left alone. As you can see, they're not relying on camouflage. They're jet black, and they've got that red belly on it. But the red isn't completely under the whole belly. If you look underneath that belly, grab this here. If you look underneath that belly, it's not completely red. It's actually got lines and stuff like that all under it too. So that red is more predominant around the side flanks of that belly. So when it's sitting on the ground, It looks like the red might continue right underneath the whole belly there. It looks quite solid. But they do have a very pale belly with those little lines and crosses and all that across it there. Very lovely animals. I'm not hurting it at the moment. I'm letting it feel comfortable, I'm letting it sit on me. But if I started doing silly things and grabbing it probably about 6 inches from down the neck and things like that, it would certainly turn around and bite me. But I'm not going to demonstrate that for your entertainment today. Because that'll wreck the rest of my day. But they are very lovely animals. As you can see, it's got no interest in hurting me at the moment while I stand still. It doesn't see me as a threat right now. It's quite happy to cruise around my boots. And as long as I keep still and don't have a gap under my jeans, I'll be okay. But I don't recommend everyone go out in the bush and go, look what I can do with black snakes, they pull around your feet. Don't do that. You can end up really in trouble. So these guys here, very happy to just go and find a hiding spot, but the good thing about these guys is with their coloration. Being a black coloration is really handy for an animal that does live and hunt around swampy and water areas. Because what they're going to do most of the time is they can hunt around their swamps and creeks, and they can spend a lot of time hunting in that water. And they'll go underwater. They can hold their breath for nearly half an hour underwater, hunting things like eels and fish and tadpoles and frogs. And what they're going to do, their body temperature is going to drop down quite a bit once they're in that water. So what they can do is they can climb out, sit on the bank for a very, very short period of time in that sun, and being a very black coloration there, they can heat their body up very quickly, and they can resume back to hunting again in a very short period of time. There we go. But like all snakes, all they really want to do is just hide and get out of harm's way. Okay, the next one I have here at the moment is a very pretty little snake. But even though it's a very pretty little snake, it's a very lethal little snake. And this little guy's name is Reaper. There he is, isn't he gorgeous? A lot of people see a snake like that stressed out in that situation. They can say, oh, is it a tiger snake? Is it a brown snake? Things like that because they're banding. No, this is actually a death adder. Death adders are very beautiful little snakes, and as you can see, the tip of that tail there looks a little bit different, doesn't it, to the rest of its body. So when you look at that little tail tip, they use that as a bit of a call to lure. They use that for hunting. So most of the time, death adders, they're going to hide in leaf litter and mulch and in the grass and in the ground. And they'll sit in there and they'll even put little bits of dirt and sand over the top of their head to disguise it as well. So while they're waiting there in ambush, they'll sit in the leaves and they're totally invisible. You won't even know they're there. And that's what they rely on. They'll have that little tail tip sits in front of them, they wiggle that around, and as they have it wiggling around, a little lizard or a bird nearby might think it's a little bit of a feed, a little caterpillar or a grub. So what they're going to do, they're going to come down and try to grab that little caterpillar or grub at the time. And within 1/6 of a second, that death adder will strike, and it's grab that prey. It's going to grab that lizard, it's going to grab that little bird, and it's going to pump that venom, kill it very, very quickly, and then swallow it very quickly too. And that's how they hunt. They don't have to travel. Some death adders, their whole life, if they're in a really good habitat, they will actually not even venture any further than the size of this whole hall, if they've got the perfect habitat in that area. And that's all they need. As long as they've got lots of food that come into where they are, they use that little tail to lure things, they will actually just lure animals in and catch them very quickly. Okay. He's not the one you can pick up by the tails as easily. I'd much rather much bigger, longer snakes, even in snake catching too, because there's much more distance between the head and the tail. Picking up baby snakes is always a bit of a nightmare. It's like letting go a little rubber band back to yourself most of the time. And death adders are notorious for striking very quickly like that at people. Okay, the next one we have here is a snake that is found around the Sydney area, but not in big numbers. They're in little pockets, these guys. Some other areas, they are very, very common. such as through Victoria, Tasmania, and cooler climates like probably west of the Blue Mountains and those sort of areas, these guys are much more common. There we go, that's a tiger snake. As you can see, this one does have a little bit of banding on it. But one thing you will notice when I come up near it, watch what it does with its neck. See it flattening it out a bit? It'll flatten that neck out because they are mimicking a cobra, see? And that's what they'll do. They'll try to make themselves look bigger and much more impressive than what they really are. So he's hoping to look bigger, threatening, just like a cobra does. These guys are related to the cobras, and they do have the same ability. See that neck? He has the same ability to flatten it out, see? As I sort of move this around, he gets a bit agitated, and he's just like, just look how big I can be. Look at my neck. Just keep away. But he's not really doing anything much more than that at all. So he's quite happy to cruise around quite slowly. But this is one of those snakes. This guy here is quite funny actually. He can cruise around nice and slowly like that there, but if I hold him up by the tail, he goes absolutely nuts. He swings around, he shakes, he violently. So I just let him just cruise on the ground these days. There's no point trying to pick this one up anymore. He just gets really silly with it. But he's a lovely little animal there. Cruising around, nice banding. This is probably the typical coloration you might get around Sydney varieties of tiger snakes. They usually always got that sort of grey, olivey, greeny head, and they've got the nice, like, more rustic brown up towards the top there, a bit of banding. We can get some with nice yellow banding at times, but this is pretty dull. Like, a lot of times people confuse these with brown snakes as well. When people give descriptions of brown snakes and tiger snakes, they can be almost the same description. Because we also do get brown snakes that do have banding. And nearly all the brown snake babies we get in Sydney, they usually are strongly banded when they are babies. And a lot of those adult brown snakes do continue to have banding as they mature. And they can look very much like this. Okay, here you go, buddy. Get back. I'll put that little barrier between me and it. Okay, now this snake here is not this individual one, but it's a species that's killed the most Australians out there. This snake is the most second venomous snake on the planet. And they are an animal that is meant to be very well respected. You do something silly with these guys, that's where you learn the lesson real quick. Don't do it again. It's known as the Eastern Brown Snake. And if anyone, I just want to make sure that no kids put their hands over the side of the pits when this one's out. What this one's going to do, I'll sit it out here and it will only really react to the way I act. What I do depends on what it does. If I leave it alone, keep it still, it will keep nice and still. If I go and make silly erratic moves, say I'm like a person with a shovel wanting to hurt it, it may do something pretty aggressive. So that's where things may change. But I'll put it out here at the moment. I'll just have a bit of a look at it. Might stand its ground, and might move, we'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. Straight away, you see the way it reacts? It comes out, it's got the tongue ticker task there, it's looking around, while I'm still, not a problem. But if I go and start doing silly things, I start going up towards this snake, I make it feel threatened, it feels threatened. And it may probably stand up and probably have a bit of a clap towards me. Or it's just going to stand as good. There we go, see that? It's looking for the way out. And they will put that head up there in that typical S strike. And that's how you know an Eastern Brown, that's what they'll do. They'll always get that typical S up. And when they sit up there with their head, they can bounce pretty quickly along the ground towards you. And as they go along the ground, they do strike pretty hard. This one here has been in captivity for a little while. It's been handled quite a bit. It's very alert. It does want to bite still. But it's just standing its ground. It's not carrying on too much. Not standing up too high. I've had some brown snakes that are standing up with nearly a full third of their body off the ground. And they'll bounce towards you. But like I say, it's just a matter of me coming over towards it. And once it feels that I'm a threat to it, in front, see what it does? Straight away. If you leave that snake alone, apart completely still, not a problem, is it? How many times have you heard people talk about they're being chased by brown snakes? Things like that. It's not trying to chase me. It doesn't want to go anywhere near me. I tell you, when I go near it, it goes, I don't want to bathe you. See that? So brown snakes aren't like that at all. They're not really an attacking machine. But a cornered brown snake, 100%, it's a dangerous animal. If you walk even in a shed accidentally, and that snake feels like it's cornered, it can be a very dangerous animal. If you don't know it's there, people can accidentally get bitten by them. And I'll guarantee that will happen. If I walk straight in and do something silly up to it, look at this. He's getting a little bit jumpy now. Going to flick around a bit, standing up, but then he'll get to a point where he'll have a bit of a strike every now and then. If I touch him, what are you doing? You coming back? Me? Or you're just going to be... You've been pretty chilled right now. That's unusual. Making my day real easy. Usually I've had her bouncing around and hit the edge of the pit. Or I've had to use the bag up here and she still hasn't fell straight in. It's been highly entertaining at times, but she's pretty good today. She was just a bit standoffish, backing off a little bit. But she's not too bad. But that's what I like to say there. I just like to show that these snakes really only behave and they really only react to what we do to them. So that's what I like to mention. If you see a brown snake like that and you see it sitting around, don't go trying to hit it with a shovel, don't try hurting it. The only people that manage to get themselves bitten are people trying to capture or kill them at the time anyway. Best advice I always give, leave them alone, no one gets hurt. I've got a couple of other snakes to bring out now, and this next couple, you even got the opportunity to pat one. What do you reckon, kids? Who wants to pat a snake? Yeah, that's much better than getting to pat one, isn't it? You could have all patted one of those brown snakes, but I guess if the authorities see me doing that, I'll end up in jail, probably. I always say any news is good publicity, but no, I don't think so. This one here is an actually beautiful animal. It's known as a carpet python. Turn yourself over. The carpet python there is a snake that's found up the east coast of Australia. This colour variant is something you're going to find from about Port Macquarie right up to North Queensland. And their personality changes quite a bit too as the further you go up. Whereas we do have a carpet python local to the Sydney area, and it's established its own name. And it is known as the diamond python. And that's that one there. Aren't they beautiful animals? I reckon the diamond python is probably one of the most beautiful snakes on the planet. We're very, very lucky to have them as our local python around Sydney. They are genetically made up, they're the same species of snake. They can interbreed with each other, they can make a nice combination between the two. Diamond pythons can sometimes be totally black, and they can not have any yellow dots at all sometimes, so they'll be quite bland. Or you can have one like this where it's got quite a little bit of yellow on it, looks very pretty. So they're going to be found mainly from about the Victorian border, right at the east coast of New South Wales, up to about the crossover border around Port Macquarie where these guys start. And their personality can also change a bit too. Carpet pythons generally a little bit more aggressive in their nature, they like to bite a little bit more if you do silly things around them. Diamond pythons might be a little bit better in their nature. They can sometimes be a little bit more forgiving. I'll bring this one up here at the moment. They have been known to go up to 3 metres in length or even more. I'll give this one to Sandy. You can carry this one around at the moment. If you want to give it a bit of a pat, just don't try to pat it around the head if possible. It's a little bit like me coming up to you, and instead of coming up and shaking your hand, I go and poke you in the eyes instead. You wouldn't enjoy that, would you? So this one here, little diamond python. Come on, buddy. Sometimes they get hungry this time of the year and you don't know when they think they're getting fed. You've probably got more chance of captive animals biting you out of food response than what you have with a wild one biting you out of aggression. And so many people here to realise that with big captive snakes. It's unbelievable. I found even with venomous snakes too, it's a very dangerous occupation. I've got another big brown snake that's in that box I didn't bring out for that show. But yesterday all I did was as soon as I undid that lock, he went absolutely nuts. He bit his water bowl, he hit the ground, he bit his hide box, he bit the glass, he stood up and moved with his mouth open, just hitting. And he was crazy. And that was all about food. That wasn't aggression at all. That was just about food. So so I have much more chance of getting bitten by him to hit in a food response at the time than out of an aggressive bite. Rightio. I've got one more animal to show you all, guys, and it's a pretty cool animal. Just going to put these little guys back first. Well, Sandy will still walk around with that one for a little bit right now while I get the next one out. But the next guy here, he's a lovely animal, but you know what, he hates my guts. But that's okay because I'm not going to take it personally because I know he hates everyone the same. He's got a really good personality and that means nasty. But he's one of those animals that never tames. And he's known as a saltwater crocodile. There he is. Isn't he beautiful? This guy here, his name is Smiley. And he's got the name Smiley because he loves to give a nice big smile to everyone that gives him a smile back. Who's going to give him a nice big smile that he can smile at? Over here, we got any? Oh, here we go. Oh, look at that. That's a nice big grin. What about you guys? Oh, yeah. Very cool. There we go. Nice. So come over here. Nice big smile, guys. There we go. Look straight into that throat there. We'll go over here. We won't get too close to you. There we go, guys. Ready? Oh, nice. Very good big smile there. That looks great, doesn't it? Over here, guys. Ready? Big smile. Look at him. Excellent. Beautiful. We'll go over here now. Oh, this looks the face painting is going to be good. Oh, there he goes. He's beautiful, isn't he? Okay, the last kid's up here. Don't hide, buddy. Here we go. Look at that nice big smile he's giving you. Isn't that beautiful? He does, actually. I'll bring him around and go a bit of practice what he feels like. A lot of you might say it feels a little bit like your best friend, babe. But I'd much rather see him as a crocodile. They're beautiful, aren't they? Feel that belly is so soft. It's amazing, isn't it? Even when they're big, even when they're big, they're still just soft. It's really amazing. There we go, guys. These guys have the ability to grow to 6 metres long when they're full grown. So little Smiley here's only a baby. He's scaly, he's very smooth still, isn't he? It's a bit bumpy along there. Okay, kids. Isn't he beautiful? Looks great, doesn't he? Isn't he awesome? And we'll pull it back to where we started, guys. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the show today and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks heaps. Yep. Yep. Here we go, guys.
Fantastic, thank you.
Awesome, no worries. Turn around, guys. Here we go. Hand up. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Here we go, buddy.
How old is he?
He's a couple of years old. You're welcome. Okay. Oh, you want another shot? There we go. How you going, Amy? Good. Class 1 now. Oh, the whole license just a change. Like a little kid. Oh, he got me. He's like a little kid at bedtime. He's just hating. That's